Right, well, welcome everyone to this meeting of the virtual IMS user group. Thank you for joining us. I'm Trevor Eddles, I'm CEO of iTechEd Limited. We're a mainframe consultancy, analysis and technical authoring organisation, and we're responsible for the content on the virtual IMS website, and we produce the newsletters, etc. And if you're looking for the website, it can now be found at itech-ed.com/virtual IMS. And if you've got any friends who use Kix, we also look after the virtual CICS user group. Okay, then first of all, I'd like to run through the agenda for this meeting. As usual, most of the meeting will be taken up with a presentation, and today our guest presenter is Nick Griffin. He's Worldwide IMS Specialist at BMC, and his talk is called Implement IMS Analytics for Better Business Outcomes. And a copy of his slides will be on the website later today, and we'll also hopefully have a link to a recording of this meeting as well. And if you missed any of our previous meetings, you can find those on the website. They're on the resources page. So following Nick's presentation, any questions you have for him, we'll move on to the latest IMS news and IMS related articles. Feedback request is there to remind me to ask you for your feedback about this virtual meeting, and then I'll give you the dates and times for the next couple of meetings. So that's the plan for this meeting. I'm anticipating that it'll last for about 50 minutes, something like that. Anyway, as I just said, today's presentation is from Nick Griffin. Nick has over 40 years of mainframe experience in development systems and database admin for IMS, MVS, Kix VSAM and VTAM applications. Nick has been a developer for IMS monitoring code and managed a development group for a competitive software vendor. Nick managed large, complex, mission-critical IMS database applications for a variety of Fortune 500 companies. And most recently, he spent 14 years as IMS product manager for a large tools vendor. Nick is currently assisting sales as IMS product account manager. So Nick, I'd like to thank you very much for being with us today. And what I'm going to do now is pass control of the meeting over to you. So thank you, Nick.
All right, thank you, Trevor. Let me get this set up here.
Yeah, let's just... Right, you should have a message on screen.
There she comes. All right. Yeah. Almost there. Perfect.
Okay. I can see it, yep.
Okay,
thanks, Nick.
Well, hello, everyone, and thanks, Trevor, for the introduction. And actually, this is my 45th year. I started at EDS in 1975, so I've been doing this for quite a while. Not all in the IMS area, but actually in MVS and many other areas before that. But I've been doing IMS since the mid-late 80s, so I've had pretty good background in IMS. But at any rate, I'm with BMC, as Trevor said, and in this virtual session, I'm going to primarily discuss IMS Analytics. But and I know that's kind of a subject that most of you, may not be real high on your priority list, but hopefully it will be soon, because most companies, they have teams of people that are reviewing, the data they produce and how to better utilize that in their business. They may not be including you at this time because most of the analytic discussions seem to start around distributed area, somewhere around the big data projects that are going on. But I'm sure that soon they're going to realize they need your input, because IMS data is highly important in your business, and I know they'll want to get to it somehow or another. But that's one of the things we want to try to look at. And there's also been a lot of discussion recently from other vendors who have been building, software solutions in the analytics area, which is great. I think it depends on what kind of data your company is really needing for analytics. you may just require IMS customer data, and that's what most of them are looking at right now. But in most cases, I think you're going to be looking to into the systems diagnostics area where other types of data would be required. So today we'll discuss some analytic products that are currently being used in the workplace. And first, I'm going to talk a little bit about security because that's kind of where we're headed a little bit. But it kind of folds into what I'm going to focus on in the IMS area, which is some of the things we've been doing here recently. So how many of you have thought, well, we just passed a compliance audit, so everything must be secure? Or the mainframe can't be breached, it's unhackable. I know, I tell you, up till recently, I've kind of felt the same way. I went for years and said, there's no way anybody's going to hack the mainframe. That never happens. And when I did a bunch of systems and DBA work, very few people had that kind of access. It just didn't happen in the mainframe. But how many times have you also thought that, well, I got event logs and they'll show all security issues or the threats of intrusions immediately to me? Well, we have the data. All we have to do is go look at it. Well, these are examples of what I call a false sense of security, which many of us in the mainframe area, we have today. But the fact of the matter is the mainframe is closer to the internet and applications, credit card information than it ever has been before. And this is precisely the data those hackers want. So now you might be asking yourself a little different question, just how secure is the mainframe? Well, the mainframe platform holds the most important data in your enterprise and is known to be the most secureable platform on the planet. But just because it's the most secureable platform on the planet doesn't mean that every mainframe is fully secure. If you remember in the old days, we used to just kind of lock up our terminals in our offices, since you had to go through security to get into the building, and it was easy to secure your office. But then we'd also at night we'd stop our controls regions just so people couldn't get access to control regions. And at last extent, we'd probably hide our manuals so people couldn't just go in and start reading manuals trying to figure out how to do things that we didn't want them to be doing. But those tactics don't apply anymore. That's today's connectivity has evolved a lot, and it just doesn't apply. So, but here are two examples of mainframe hacks that we have found, and so we know it can be done. And I know there's a lot of other examples recently. These are a little older, but in these examples, you see a bank and an eyeglass manufacturer that were breached on the mainframe. And I know we keep thinking, well, it's got to be hard to do, but it really probably isn't as hard as we think. And I know most breaches you hear about are probably in the distributed area or some enterprise area of our businesses, but they can still happen on the mainframe as well, as we see here in this diagram. With high volumes of rich data, our systems are now ripe targets for theft, denial of service attacks, or fraud. And in this study, we show that most breaches involve weak or stolen passwords. As for passwords, I know me, I have hundreds of passwords. It seems like everything I do, you got to get a password for, right? And so I keep them on my phone. And I know that's kind of crazy, but I keep it in a file because that way it's easily obtainable by me. But I know that it's also probably easily obtainable by hackers. And I've mentioned this before, and several people have said, well, you probably ought to put it in encrypted files. But lo and behold, I share this information with my spouse, and I know she couldn't figure that technology out. So that's not happening. But there are other ways to do it to keep my information safe. But that's what happens. It's probably more open than we realize. And our data may seem like it's safe in one spot, but it's probably not. And also, I remember years ago when I was a systems programmer, and we always had a backdoor password. So when some problems happen in the middle of the night or on weekends, then I could easily go out and get on the system and get on the systems I needed to get on to quickly resolve those issues without having to call a bunch of people or try to figure out other things. But I don't think system programmers do that anymore. Do they? Well, maybe they do. But in this study that I've got up here, it also shows that 60% of the breaches are feature hacking, and over 40% of those hacks are probably from social media. And I don't know if any of you received any malware threats recently, but I can tell you I have. It's probably been almost a year ago now, but I was sitting on my computer and browsing and jumping around some websites looking for some stuff, and I accidentally entered the wrong information. Of course, some people said I went to the wrong sites, but it didn't matter. All of a sudden, I got this little flashing blue screen up on my PC, and it was flashing saying, send me money or I'll lock your PC up. And so I sat there for a little bit trying to figure out what to do. And I thought, well, I don't want to press that button because that's not going to be a good thing. So what I basically did was I powered down my PC and rebooted, and then when I restarted it, it had gone away. So I guess I got lucky. But if I had, it could have been a real problem if I'd have pushed that button and downloaded some malware software into my PC. It would have probably allowed them to get information that I was entering in my PC for other things, like getting on the mainframe and things like that. So that opportunity is out there all the time. That problem is always available. But as the study shows, security breaches are extremely expensive to your business, in both dollars and mainly to your company's reputation. Once you lose information to hackers or thieves, how do you get it back? Well, you don't. I mean, once it's gone, it's gone. And as we've seen, it can proliferate all over the place. So a lot of people could pick it up and they sell it and they buy it, and you never know where your data's going. In this diagram, it basically shows that it takes about 197 days, or about somewhere around 6 months, for a notification of a breach from a business to get out into the press, which is probably pretty normal by what I've seen recently. But I know it seems like a long time, when one of the companies has found out about it, but they have to spend time determining what their plan of action will be in order to protect their own interests. So it does take a little while to figure out what they're going to do, and how they're going to fix it. And did anyone? I don't know if any of you did, but I got this Equifax notice about a year ago as well, and I went out and did a little search on the website they gave us, and found out that my name was on the list. So I answered a few questions, and they offered me $250 in restitution, which I thought was great. But then, not too long after that, they rescinded it, and come to find out that they actually offered me a LifeLock product for a year, which I guess I went ahead and accepted. But I haven't even looked at it. I don't know if it even works. But what Equifax found was that everybody wanted the money, and the settlement they had was not sufficient enough to cover it. So they had to opt for other means of compensation, which I'm sure that's what most companies end up doing. And I don't know if any of you got this last weekend, but also got a notice on a class action suit from Google. And I realized that, I'm sure I use Google. I'm sure I'm in that one too, but that one actually goes back to 2018, was several years ago. But we're just now finding out about the class action suit against them. So I imagine it'll probably work basically the same way, and we'll get more notifications, and they'll make us an offer, and then we'll move on from that as well. But your data is still gone, no matter which way we go. Equifax has lost my data, and there's nothing I can do about it. And it may be the same case with Google. It's probably gone, and it may show up later. But that's the fact of the way things are today, and those are some of the things we have to look out for. For the 14th consecutive year, BMC has conducted the largest mainframe survey of its kind, with more than 1,100 executives and technical professionals sharing their perspectives and experiences with the platform. If you haven't seen this survey, you can pull it down from our website for free. And it is very widely used by and accepted by all the major vendors. So it's a great survey to take a look at if you haven't had a chance to look at it. But from the survey, we've seen over the last few years that security was the #2 priority. The #1 priority happened to be cost reduction, but it was just slightly ahead of security at about 61% versus 60%. But they did show that security, it was the biggest obstacle of the year for them. Now, the good news in the survey was that about 93% reported that they see a long-term future and a new workload strength in the mainframe, which is great. It also showed that 52% of them saw that the mainframe was going to have continued significant growth. So the mainframe is proving that it's increased its confidence, and people are having a lot more confidence in the mainframe capabilities these days. Now, one thing the executives did say was they agreed that data privacy, compliance, and security are one of the top priorities, and more specifically, they stated that their challenge was not only to keep the environment secure, but was to prove that their company is in compliance with the regulators. This might be because I think they found themselves that they're actually liable for these breaches. The breaches that are occurring, the executives are the ones that are getting backlash now, and so they know they can be prosecuted. So they're finding that they need to be a lot more aware and of what's going on with security. But they also said that mainframers are moving to secure their platform, but there's still a lot of work to do. So they all realize that. And now organizations are starting to experience a lot more frequent audits, and those findings from those audits are actually causing them much more heartache than breaches alone. So there's lots of activity going in that area. Another thing they found, the respondents also stated that they're deploying the latest encryption techniques, with about 34% of those large shops putting in pervasive encryption, and we have a lot of new ways of doing encryption these days, just to secure their data. Now, pervasive encryption is very useful with data that's being attacked from the outside, but unless it's a regular non-secure access point, it's not quite as useful if they're inside your organization and decrypting the data and processing it right there. Another good example of security comes from a guy named Frank Abagnale. Now, Frank William Abagnale Jr. was an American security consultant, or is an American security consultant now, but he was known for his career as a young man as a con man, check forger, and an imposter, which he did all this during his teens. And actually, he was the subject matter of the movie Catch Me If You Can, if you saw that. I'm not sure if you did or not. But he said, "What I did in my youth is 100 times easier today because technology breeds crime." And he said that most cybercrime were due to inside negligence. Now, his statements about countries involved in cybercrime, that seems to have recently changed, and we see that in some of our elections and things like that. But I have to agree that it's probably much easier to know someone on the inside to help you get what you need if you're a hacker. But it doesn't take just somebody on the inside. It just takes somebody on the inside to make a mistake and maybe pull up something that actually allows hackers to get in. So without real-time mainframe data, there's a security gap across the enterprise. And that's because most security information and event management SIEM software, has been focused around distributed processes. If you look at all the list of all the software vendors and what they've created over the years and looking at security, naturally with all the breaches we see over in the distributed area, naturally they've focused on that and built software around that. And that's kind of the same with analytics. Everything's been kind of focused in the distributed area and not so much in the mainframe area. But now we need to look at the mainframe area much closer because most of our data that we know is coming from the mainframe. And real time is not good enough anymore. We really need to have real time data because reviewing old logs and trying to see what's happened is just not a good thing to do anymore. So let's talk about IMS for a minute. There's so many ways that data comes into IMS these days. We've got ODM, ODBM, open systems, all those getting access through IMS. And more connectivity is, really great news for IMS. They've built it over the years, and it's now over 50 years old, and it really continues to perform very, very well in our modern world. But and I'll have to say it probably will outlast most of us, but it does have a lot of connectivity to it. And the largest drawback is the amount of access points that IMS has for services and data. That leads to more opportunities for malicious access, which is going to occur. So we have to continue to work and strive to secure that data. And there's lots of things that could happen that could cause or allow hackers to get in. Now, as an example, the growth in banking is happening in the mobile and the personal banking components. And, these are like instant payments systems, real-time services, and instant billing, which are increasing the amount of transaction processing every day. A while back, I stated in some meetings that we had that I felt like ATMs are going to be a thing of the past. And of course, everybody in the room kind of scoffed at the idea, but lo and behold, here recently with the crisis we've had, cash is no longer the preferred payment method. Matter of fact, most people don't even carry coins anymore. Might be because they can't find them, but cash is not really what's being used. We're not going to an ATM machine pulling cash out. We're actually doing things with credit cards or online banking. And in banking, like many other businesses, we no longer use green screen terminals for access, which, we're locked up in secure areas that only company employees can get to. So now a smartphone or the web browser is the potential user or abuser of our data. So that's the easiest way for people to get in these days, and that's the way hackers are seeing it. So how do you find deceitful activity, and where do you start? You'd have to look at log data from all your systems. And as we know, IMS logs, were created for IMS's own purposes and not necessarily to help with securing your business. The log data was originally intended for recovery only, and then over the years we've added more and more log records to help with other areas. But what this means is that the number of IMS logs that you need to look at may be massive. And the mainframe overhead to analyze that log data would even be greater. So that's why we don't do as much of it as we'd love to do on the mainframe side. So let me introduce AMI for Security. AMI stands for Automated Mainframe Intelligence. And this is the start of BMC's future development around analytics. We are developing a number of solutions to assist customers with analytics for problem determination and resolution, all the way to the point of predicting the problem before it even happens with a product we just came out with called AMI Predictor. But we can talk about those at a later time. But AMI for Security is really one of our first products that we came out with. And in the IMS area, we actually came out with a product before that, which was actually the first analytics product, the directly analytics product that we came out with, called Data Extractor for IMS. And that product actually started as a solution to help customers with issues when data was being offloaded to analytics engines. The customers kind of noticed that the cost of sending all this data was enormous. And receiving a request from a customer, we could see that we could help them with filtering the data down to a much smaller ingestion rate. So since that time, BMC purchased a company called Coralog, and that's basically where the security portion comes from, which has been, they've been in the business for a very long period of time, doing an excellent job with security analytics across the enterprise. So they've been fully across the enterprise doing analytics. And so we rebranded those products, which is now AMI for Security, which you see today. So this solution includes a number of featured products, one being AMI Command Center, which provides point-and-click functionality from a standard web browser into ZOS security and operational events. Another being Defender for ZOS, which basically it's the role of corporate IT security systems to include real-time mainframe messages to network security. Whether you're using Command Center or another distributed SIEM, such as Splunk or Micro Focus, ArcSight, or something like that, ZDefender still delivers the log data on the fly, real time. The other things you see here are Defender for DB2 and IMS, which provide up-to-second data set monitoring and security alerts for event logs. Now, what we've done is we've taken the product I talked about a while ago, Data Extractor for IMS, and we've incorporated it into the Defender for IMS product. So now it has a lot more features and functions than just the security piece. But the BMC AMI for Security solution has about 16 different mainframe and distributed products. So it is very much across the enterprise watching for security and pulling data in for analytics. So all this data can be pulled in, and you can do more than just security with it, but security is the main focus. But AMI for Security focuses on multiple areas of security associated with tracking user activity, watching for system changes, logging data for forensics, besides meeting all the regulations required for auditors. All collected data is kept in searchable online state for up to 500 days. And you can keep it in a ready store, secured, archived indefinitely. So data is available to you all the time for analytics at a very high rate. And what you see in front of you these are typical areas of interest which we do for monitoring, for security monitoring and compliance. And compliance is the big portion of security. We have to meet all the compliance regulations, and that's why security is so important these days. So this diagram is basically the base architecture for AMI for Security. And on the left-hand side, you see the types of data that we can extract. You see RACF, IMS, DB2, CICS, MQ. You also see JES logs and sys logs, along with a number of others. And we filter the data down to just what you need for security. Yet the data can be more than just security, so you can ship more information than just that across, depending on how much you want and what types of data you want. The data is then received in our command center, which you see in the middle, where it can be analyzed, and you can get email notifications or text or even open help desk tickets. But the data can also be passed directly over to another SIEM, like security information can be sent to like Splunk or many of the other ones like ArcSight and so forth. So isn't this what your business really needs in security? It needs to be able to have this data, all the data you need, passed and analyzed for you directly. So the VMC IME Command Center is an alternative to Splunk, and it also provides continuous visibility and analysis for your security events. Our command center has out-of-the-box dashboards, which are fast to implement and easy to use. They're also, you can build your own based on the data you retrieve from the mainframe. You might want to note the tabs at the top. It can be broken down in different subsystems, or you can combine the data together however you'd like to. If you want to put it all in one spot, it's easy to do. A little closer look here in IMS type of data. Command Center has a lot of specialized views that are tailored for your business needs. In these panels, you basically see the IMS type data for IMS message counts for data store, lapse times of the message counts to a specific data store, or the count of specific log records which are being retrieved from IMS. Here you can see the message counts based on the types of violations which occurred, the count of accesses by user ID, and the IMS log messages types. All of these are out-of-the-box panels, which you get immediately with the product. But you can build any that you'd like to. So there's the data is available to you, and you can create panels that meet your needs. So to talk a little more about IMS, BMC IME Defender for IMS is what we mainly deal with, since that we're an IMS group. But BMC has the capability of pulling in all types of information for you. So getting real-time information really makes all the difference. There's no reason to go back and reprocess complex IMS logs if you can get real-time information. And our process uses proprietary techniques to extract the data prior to it being written to the logger, which dramatically reduces the overhead. When we first started designing this product, we talked to a number of our customers, and they said, well, if you slow my IMS down at any point whatsoever, this product will never fly. And so we used that as our direction when we started building the product, and we found that there's minor amount of overhead added to your IMS. So we don't really slow your IMSs down at all. And the other thing we did was we created some very advanced filtering that helped to eliminate some of the charges you might get from some of the other analytic engines that are needed to ingest all your data at one time. So we can narrow that down to just what you need, and you can push it out as needed. So this slide basically depicts the architecture that we use for our data extractor, which is now the Defender for IMS. But our original method, which goes across the top, was basically not a real-time method. We took the logs once they were switched. We ran information against the logs, batch run, and then we processed it and pushed it out to analytics engines. But since that time, now we send real-time data to your SIEM or to our command center prior to it being written to the SLIDs, which is much more efficient and much more timely, as the information is accessed immediately, and instead of having to wait till after that log switch is done. So let me show you a couple examples of filtering, and in this example, we can create an extract list of the IMS log records which you wish to filter on. So this will be an extract list that's actually running. As you can see here, we have the 01 input message, the 03 output message, and the 16 sign-on, sign-off records. So that's what we're actually filtering at the moment. But if we wanted to add to that, it's an easy pull down to select the log records that you'd like to have. Currently, we manage about 125 different log records, but we can always add more to that list if they're needed. We found that some log records were not really as needed in doing any analytics. They do other things, but if you're interested in them, we can always help you pull those down. We also manage a lot of other product type records. Take information from IMS Connect, event logs, things like that. We manage that through our Energizer for IMS Connect. We can also pull in the main view Fox 9 or Fox Able records if you're wishing to pull in main view information into your analytics engine. So we can get that as well. But once you've selected the record you want, in this case it's the 01 IMS input message, then you can select the fields you want to extract. Maybe you don't want to extract all the fields in that record. There's quite a few. So you can select just the ones you need. Here we're just looking at the RACAP user ID, the timestamp, destination, date, and time. Here we have like the 16 log record, which we can see the sign-on flag field. Normally this kind of field would be difficult to work with, hard to capture and hard to analyze. But what we do is we convert this to a character yes or no value, which makes it much easier to work with. We can also capture the sign-on user field, which is in the 16 log record, and the sign-on times, which is another example of a field that we convert it to normalize that value, which also makes it very easy to compare and capture. Makes it much more usable for your analytics engines. In this screen, we show the sign-off records, the flag, and so we can see the description of a force/sign-off event. Normally, this is represented in the IMS log record as a bit pattern, but we actually normalize that as well and make it much easier for analytics engines to decipher. By normalizing these fields to yes and no field, it is easier for the filter records that contain the events to see the related events and the security consoles, and so you can actually analyze them much simpler. The IMS Defender for IMS product can also capture and transform and normalize fields for most all processes that you use for your favorite analytics engines. And then the data can also be sent directly to that engine or to a file. So we actually comma delimiter the data if you want to send it off to a file and do something else with it, put it in Excel or whatever other type of function you'd like to use. So you can select specific pieces of data. You don't have to select all the log records. You can filter it down to however you want if you have specific needs that you're looking for. So now I want to spend a few minutes talking about some new enhancements that we released this summer, and most of these are all based on customer requests. And the reason I feel all this is important is that we've had a number of customers recently purchase our AMI for security, and the groups that actually buy these products are not really the IMS teams; they're security teams. And so, they may not be working directly with our IMS teams. And once that the IMS teams of the customer find out, they've got this product and they have some capabilities that we're unaware of, then they can actually do other things. And once they're informed, they see that there's some new functionality and they start seeing functions and capabilities which they can improve their business as well. So I know it happens all the time, and I've seen it several times, where a security group bought a product, and until I notified them and said, hey, IMS guys, you can actually extract your own IMS data or do something else here, they were totally unaware of the situation and unaware of the product that was sitting in front of them. And so it may not be BMC, but for IMS guys like us, unless somebody tells us that they have a product that we can utilize, they may just be doing it over security and we're not aware. So that's why I think these are highly important to all of us. And most of these enhancements that I'm going to talk about, we're always willing to look at new features and functions. So these are customer enhancements that we've been asked for, and as we talk to customers, there's lots of interesting things they want to do, and so you'll see some of that in some of the functions I'm going to show you. Now, we've also been looking at the capability of maybe having read data in here as well, and we know we can do that throughout our through our Defender for IMS product. But what we're looking for is more customers that are actually interested in it, and we're starting to see the need. It's just hasn't come up yet. But if you really feel like you'd like to see what the touches on your data and read data and actually have that in an analytics engine, let us know, and we'll be glad to help you with that area. So just a quick look at the agenda that we're going to kind of go over here. First, we're going to talk about some changes for Defender for ZOS. And the reason that's important is if you have security, aiming for security, Defender for IMS and DB2 actually feed into the Defender for ZOS. So most of the things go through that path in order to go to the command center. And so that's why it's important. There are some new members that now you need to use for CCA PARMs, which were the old libraries. So the CCA and the CZ acronyms that you see, those are really from the CoreLog products. And what we're doing is we're starting to integrate some of the things we did back prior to CoreLog into that area. And so now we're moving everything into one place, which makes it much simpler for you to configure what you need. And as I said, Defender for ZOS is our primary place for configuring, and then you can do things moving down the line to DB2 and IMS and so forth. But so we need to be able to integrate directly with that, and that's what this enhancement basically does. So we have the sample members that are in new libraries as well. So making it easy for you to go do samples of how to pull this information off and how to set up the configurations. And really, all you have to do in order to get this started is just enable the switch member, and that's a pretty simple thing to do. So this is like I said, using the Defender for ZOS is really our direction for this product set. But for us, we're really working on the Defender for IMS product and doing other new things within that product. And so this enhancement that I'm going to talk about is primarily for Defender for IMS. And this new database change capture, which is the main function for this release, it allows the capturing of registered database calls like inserts, updates, and deletes. You may be familiar with what we talked about a while ago, our FOX9 and FOXABLE records, which are the numbers we use for main view. And those have been around for about 30 plus years. So we've tried to make this a little more common to that. So we're using a FOX8 record type, which will be the new record type that you'll see in this enhancement. And the FOX8 can filter by the database name. It provides fields like the subcodes of the database updates, which are in the O3 record types. It also includes the key and the concatenated key data, which was important to one of our customers. And it also includes the application start, which is the O4 record type, and the application termination, which is the O5 record type. And they're all registered in the IMS log, so you can find these in the SLID. So this 08 is going to pull in a lot of information for you based on database and push it into the SLIDs for you. And then it can be extracted and sent to your analytics engines. As an example, kind of like we showed before, the Fox8 can be pulled in from the panel of all the record types, and once you've done that, then you can select what you want to extract, and you can do a Boolean type logic against that field, just like I showed before. Now there's a new member out there, which is an Init Member, which you can use, and it actually spells out what kind of log record types you want to extract. And this is very useful for doing in like a batch format, but the F8 is available there in batch as well. And in the new release, we've introduced another new member and a DD called DB Filter. And in this member, you can say what types of calls you want to receive. Here we're looking at, we're going to select the inserts, the replaces, and the deletes. But as you can see, you could also select and do filtering by database name or user ID as well. So there's many other things you could do here by extracting this data. And all you need to do to activate it is concatenate a certain library, BMD live into your control library or your control region, or your DBRC regions, or your DLI regions. And there's some new out-of-the-box dashboards that you'll also see, just like the ones we showed before in this, that are available with this Fox8 record. And these show the function and the transaction type, and one panel, and the other it's the PSB and the DBD data types. So the FA record can be select log records from either fast path or full function. So you get a lot of real good information about databases within this Fox8 record. So we also have a new extract utility. We provided an extract specific log, so you can do specific log type records. This will enable you to create an exit for our sample code and your install library, and then just add the step live and a user exit out DD statement, and away you go. This is just an example of the JCL changes that would be required to actually to do this batch process. And then once you run the batch process, these are the messages you would see. You would see the initialization start and complete. Anytime you sent the data, you'd see the start of the send, the complete of the send, and then the terminations. And so this is all within batch, so you can do a batch extract. And the other thing we have is the last feature is an option to enable or disable the extraction of IMS log records via the Defender subsystem. You would specify a log record type in your agent's DD statements, and then you can just decide whether you want to send these records to the CG agent or directly to some other subsystem. And this is just an example of how to set up the data extract process with CG agent and the type of output that you would need. So these are a group of enhancements that we've done for our customers, trying to make it easier for them to pull off data, pull off an IMS data and extract it. And like I said, we're very willing to look at any needs that customers have and help you, help improve your business in this area. So as I started off talking about security, mainframes are targets for security attacks. There's no doubt about that. And we must admit that, mainframe processing and subsystems are, like IMS, are becoming more and more connected. They're connected to other environments and other data protocols. It's basically a whole new world out there, and, which is great for mainframes and great news for IMS, but we really have to be vigilant to ensure that our environments and our data security matches our new opportunities and risk. Passing that audit is not good enough anymore. We have to expect the best, but prepare for the worst. And in the mainframes and the IMS data databases that have the data which hackers are looking for, the cost of complacency is way too high. So security is your first thing, and you know that that's we're hopefully that's what some of your security areas are looking at, pulling in some software that helps you with security. But if you find out about that, check into what you can do with IMS. So you'll hear a lot more about security because that's the priority, the top priority. But there's extract capabilities within IMS, within these products for IMS that can help you. And I know that's what we're looking for, is how we can do things better in the IMS area. So I think that's really what I had for today. I'm going to turn it back over to Trevor and see if he had any questions.
Okay, no, thanks very much then, Nick. If anyone's got any questions, then they can either type them into the chat box or the Q&A box. I'll pause for a minute or two to give people a chance to type anything in. Otherwise, Nick, do you have an email address you can give people? Because perhaps they can email you directly if they come up with any questions later.
Oh, most certainly. And sorry I didn't have that sitting here, but it's NICK _Griffin, GRIFFIN, at BMC.com. So feel free to, send me a note if you have a question or would like more information. Glad to help.
Okay, smashing. And my email address will be on the screen later on, so you can send it to me and I'll pass it straight on to Nick.
Perfect.
Okay, Karen Tischer says, thanks, Nick. So not quite a question, but it's nice. Thank you, Karen. Let's see if we get any more. No. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Nick.
Anytime.
Because we are a virtual group, then I'd like you to assume that you're getting a virtual round of applause.
Thank you, everyone.
Right, thanks. I'm going to take control back and that's that. I'll share my screen. Okay, brilliant. So first thing on my list was to talk about IMS news, and this month I don't actually have any to share with you. So if you do have any IMS news, then if you could email that to me, that would be great. So let's move on to articles. So we've got IMS support for ZOS workload interaction correlator, and that's by Sanjay Kalia on Z Systems developer community. And we've got staging directory support for DBRC command, by Deepak Kohli. That's also on Z Systems developer community. And IMS Catalog Changes without an outage, and that's also by Deepak Kohli, and at the same place. So, as always, can I ask you for feedback? You can email your comments to me, the address is on screen, or you can use the Contact Us webpage. So let's have a look at what's coming soon then. Our next meeting then is on the 6th of October, when we have Dusty Rivers, who's Director, Z Systems Software, IMS and Kicks at GT Software. I haven't got a final title for that session yet. And the meeting after that will be on the 8th of December, when we have Thomas Esser, Z Solutions Architect and Director, IMS Solutions Advisor at Rocket Software, and he'll be discussing saving CPU time with IMS database administration. So, just a reminder that you can keep up to date with what's happening in the world of IMS and on the Virtual IMS User Group website by following us on Facebook and Twitter, and by joining the Virtual IMS group on LinkedIn. The URLs are on screen, but they're also on the homepage of the website. And of course, if you haven't, it'd be really nice if you can like us on Facebook, etc. Everyone likes likes. And if you tweet or use social media, the hashtag to use for this is hashtag virtual IMS. So that's all for this meeting of the virtual IMS user group. Can I thank you all for attending? Thanks to Rocket Software for sponsoring our user group, and I particularly want to thank Nick Griffin for today's presentation. So that's it. Thank you all very much for joining the meeting, and I look forward to seeing you next time, which is on the 6th of October. So thank you all, and goodbye.